Hi, my name is Elise Martin, and I am a certified professional coach trained through IPEC. I am also an Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioner, and I am coming to you today to talk to you about coaching beyond the method. So what does that mean? Well, when you go through a coaching program, one of the most common things is that you learn their method. You learn the language set, you learn how they do their coaching, you learn all of the techniques and the tools and the tips and the tricks and all of the things that go into becoming a certified coach. And that is wonderful. After all, we're trained experts in our field, and so we want to learn all of those things. Then there comes the day when you graduate. You become a certified coach and you start working with clients that are paying you money. And they are not familiar with the language set that you have. They're not familiar with your method. And so helping your clients beyond the method is actually the goal. If you want to spend the time teaching your client or potential clients your language set, that's great. Some people are learners and they resonate with it and they do really, really well with it. And that is what they want and need. But many, many other clients don't want to have to learn an entire language set that you have just for you to coach them. Also, that client is paying you money. They're not paying you money to learn an entirely new language set before you can even get to coaching them. As an example, my favorite method of coaching clients is energy work. I love to help my clients figure out what energy level they're at and what energy level they want to be at. And what kinds of shifts do they need to do between point A and point B to get them where they want to be? I love to do that. But in order to do that, I had to find a way of doing it without making them learn an entire language set of common terms just for them to understand what I was talking about. What I had to do was learn how to simplify my language in order for them to understand where I was getting at. And by simplify, I mean taking the technicality out of my work and putting it in common everyday terms that someone would be able to understand. And so what does that mean? Well, when I talk to them about explaining to them what is coaching, I have an entire lexicon of language that I can use to explain what is coaching. I can talk to them about all of the technical helping modalities. I can talk to them about the differences between the helping modalities. And I can make my pitch on coaching be very technical and specific, though that it sounds great. And then at the end, I might ask the question, what questions do you have around that? And they might be stuck on point one of what I said because my language was too technical and they don't know how I define what I'm saying. So what you do is you figure out what is the common person likely to understand about what coaching is. Frequently, this will come down to examples. It will come down to simplifying the language. So if I give an answer in that kind of a pattern for a client, a potential client, I might say that I help my clients figure out what they want to accomplish specifically and how they want to accomplish it. Very simple, very straightforward. It doesn't include all of the process of how I do it. And it doesn't include a lot of complicated or educated words that are part of the lexicon of explaining what coaching is from a technical standpoint. So another question that I address within there that I need to simplify and be more specific about is stuff like the differences between, for example, coaching and therapy. When I'm talking about the helping modalities, that's the very first thing I want to strip out of my explanation. I don't want to go to a client, and say, well, there are 6 helping modalities, and I'm going to walk through each of these helping modalities and explain them. Okay, my potential client likely doesn't care that there are 6 potential helping modalities. They just want to know what's the difference between coaching and therapy, or what's the difference between coaching and just talking with a friend. And really, those are the big ones, the helping modalities of therapy and counseling, and the helping modality of just talking with a friend. What's the difference between them? So when I'm explaining to a potential client the difference between coaching and therapy, what I'm going to say is something along the lines of therapy and counseling are typically done by someone who's received licensing in the field. And counseling can be done by pastors and priests as well through the training mechanisms that they've gotten. I might not even use training mechanisms. I might just say through the training that they've gotten. Counseling and therapy help their clients dig down to the root of what is causing their issue. Usually getting into mental health and wellness, and helps them resolve and come to a place of healing around it. I might address it that way, whereas I would go to the direction of coaching by saying a coach starts where you're at now. We work in the present and we work our clients forward. We don't get into the root of the problem because we're not trained in that kind of specialty to help dig down like that and deal with the mental wellness of a client at that level. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. It's like most people know what a counselor or therapist does. What they really need to know is how is a coach different? And so that's what you really want to explain. Likewise with the helping modality of friendship. What's different with a coach and a friend? And a really simple way of explaining that is an example. An example I commonly use is, well, when you're talking to a friend, are they your best cheerleader, rooting for you? They empathize with you. They feel what you're feeling. They climb right in your box with you and wrap their arms around you, and they feel sad with you, and they feel bad with you, and they feel great with you. And most people are going to say, well, yeah, that's what a friend is for. And I said, that's exactly what a friend should be for. A coach lives in a more objective space. We don't climb in your box with you. We are cheering you on, but what we're cheering you on to figure out is what you need from what happened, or what you need to accomplish where you want to go. We're objective. We're not a friend at that level. We're helping you figure out what you want to do and how you want to get there. And then they're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes complete sense. So simplifying the language, stripping out all of the language that you learned in your programs, stripping that out to use it in such a way that your client goes, that makes complete sense. I get the difference. Yeah, that would be something that would be really helpful for me. So another question that we frequently are going to be doing where we're explaining things is, what benefit does a client get out of working with a coach? And a trained coach has this entire description of the benefits of what that could be. But when you're talking with a client, you don't want to bring out all of that language said. You want to make it very simple, very basic. And a great way of doing that is, well, think of something concrete that you're having a question about or trouble with, and you're trying to figure it out. Think of something concrete, not something emotional that's going to take us in a place we don't want to go. And they might say, well, I have trouble with time management. I'm not sure what to do about time management. Well, there is a very broad, that's a very broad topic potentially. So you might ask a question, well, what about time management is a struggle for you? And they might say, well, I constantly get interrupted throughout my day and I don't know how to get myself back on track. That's very specific. So then what you can do is explain to them, well, as a coach, what I would be doing is what I just did. You've got this topic and it's very broad. Let's narrow it down. From there, we've got a specific goal now. Let's figure out what is causing you to constantly be unable to get back on track when you're interrupted. And from there, you can help them figure out what is blocking them. Now, blocking is kind of a technical term for coaches. We understand that there are inner and outer blocks that everybody goes through, but we wouldn't necessarily want to talk about that in that language set in that way with a potential client. We might want to say we might want to figure out what wall you're smacking into, or we might want to help you figure out what rock you're stumbling over on your path, descriptive things that help them to understand that we recognize something is tripping them up. And let's figure out what is tripping you up so that we can actually come up with some ways that you can then accomplish your goal of getting back on track when somebody or something derails you. So simple, straightforward. You strip out the language set that you just learned, but in order to do that, what is a key component? You have to know your material. You have to know what you've been trained to. It's very hard to come up with different ways of explaining things unless you know what your training is. An inner block and an outer block. You have to know the difference between those kind of blocks and what they are. For your inner blocks, you need to know what kind of inner blocks you're dealing with. And you have to be able to reframe it, another technical term. You have to be able to reframe it so that your client understands what you're saying to them. You're not using a language set that they don't understand, and that you have to spend 1 or 2 weeks potentially or more just giving them the basics of for you to be able to help them. The goal is to help them as well, as efficiently as possible, and to be very respectful of the fact that your client is paying you something for your services. And therefore, you don't want to spend weeks on end having to explain your method to them just so that you can do that help. So that is my session for today, my coaching vignette, if you will, of going beyond the method so that you can actually be as effective with your client as possible, and that they walk away from every session with you feeling like you have given them your best and you've made the most use of what they're paying you for the time that you're giving them to serve and help them. Have a wonderful day. Happy Monday. Happy week. Take care. Talk to you soon.